And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're going to be taking a look at Mercante. Now, Mercante is the second game in the Tempest series from AEG. That is a shared universe, essentially things that happen in the first game. There's a history. So, for example, in the first game, which was Courtier, the queen was arrested at the end of the game. So the queen has been arrested in this one, and now they're, this one is about the trading. And then in the third one, there's another one, and then the fourth one, love letter. You're trying to console the princess by, marrying her. But anyhow, this is the second game in that series. Now, this is what I like to call a straight-up Euro game, where you buy and sell goods to get victory points. But there's a lot of those games out there. How is this one different? Let's look. Lots of pieces in this game, as you can see, especially since each player has their own board. Now, the goal of this game is to get the most victory points. And while at the end of the game, you can sell money for victory points, you will be auctioning them off for victory points. So essentially, money is the best way to get victory points. And you're going to get money by buying and selling goods. On a player's turn, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to pick one of these cards here and auction it off. And then the card will be refreshed, and that's one of the way the games will end when this deck runs out. When you put it up for auction, let's say, for example, I'm going to put up this one here, the silver and tin one for auction. I could put up the whole card, where the starting bid would be 6, or I can auction off the silver and then the tin separately. It's my choice. So as players go around and they auction these off, whoever wins the silver, for example, will take a token that matches that one and put it into their personal warehouse. Each person will start with one warehouse. You use one of these cubes to mark that, but you will get more warehouses as you can get more warehouses as the game progresses. After a person has auctioned one of those off, then the person whose turn it is going to go to their player board. They have 2 agents, and they're going to put these agents on different spots on the board. They can buy a victory point. You can do that twice. You can improve your house assets, where you can buy another warehouse so you have more room to put goods. You can see up to 2 of these. You skullduggery. You go there if you want to steal from someone else's warehouse. If you see that you think someone's going to do that, you can put your guys in security, which would block them from stealing from your warehouse. You can go here where you select a contract. Contracts have different sides to them. There are contracts that are 6, 8, and 10. A contract is a very interesting feature of this game, one I haven't seen in many other games. Essentially, when you take a contract, you will get the money on the back of the contract. Well, that's not bad. I mean, this one gives you 10. At the end of the game, though, you need to have delivered this contract. If you do, you'll get that many points. If you don't, you'll lose that many points. So you can see that the penalty for not doing these contracts, essentially, you need to sell that many goods on your turn of that type at the same time. So I need to sell 2 livestock to get rid of this contract, which is easier than selling 1 mercury. Now, that's another thing you can do here, is you can go to the hire dock workers and sell contracts. Now over here, or sell goods, here you can see that there's different spots to sell goods. Each good is one type. Remember that silver I got earlier? Well, that's a precious metal. If I'm the first person to sell silver, I'll get 14 crowns. Later on, let's say someone sells mercury, which is also precious metal, they'll only get 12 crowns. And then later on, someone sells gold, they'll only get 10 crowns. And later on, someone sells tin, they're only going to get 8 crowns. And so the price is going to constantly go down. But also, whenever you sell cards, people will have a chance to play event cards from your deck, and there might be other event cards that are already on the board. for example, let's say this card is in play. You can see here that this changes the price of some of the items. Gems are worth -6, mercury is worth -4, dyes -3, and wine -2. Or perhaps it affects a whole market. Everything in the luxuries market, it gives you +2 when you sell it. Or here's one that hurts with the one we're trying. Precious metals are all -2. And since 3 of these cards can be in play at any one point in time, when they say enduring on them, you have to be careful when you sell goods and try to get the most money you can, especially after you might have paid out the nose to get them. Now, after all players have gone and taken their actions with their 2 agents, or maybe they've bought more agents as time goes by, and then you can have up to 4 agents to put out on your turn. But after all the players have done that, every once in a while, turn is going to get to the person who has this, and this is basically a reset marker, and that person will do is they'll take some of the items out of the market, so the markets will free up, and they will also auction off victory points. I guess I should explain that, because this is a really neat function of the game. Over here you have a marker that starts right here, and at the top it tells you the cost of a victory point, which is 1, and underneath it is the cost of another agent, 9. And you can see as the game progresses, they get all the way down here where they switch, where victory points cost 9 and agents cost 1. And every time someone buys a victory point, we move this forward 2 spaces. If someone buys an agent, it goes forward 1. So as the game progresses, the agents get cheaper. Of course, if you buy them at the beginning, you'll be able to use them the whole game. If you buy victory points at the beginning, they're very cheap, but you're giving up the opportunity to do other things. However, every time someone buys a victory point, another victory point is placed on the update chip here, and when it comes time to fix the markets and all that, you are going to auction off these victory points. Since there is not that many victory points in the game, there really isn't. These are critical, and so you need to make sure you have money so that when it comes time to auction these off, you can get them. So the game is going to progress. There's a few other things in the game that I didn't mention. Each player will start with a special house that gives them a special ability. Whenever you assign an agent to the buy 1 victory point, you get a crown from the bank, so you get a coin. And so there's different cards that will give you, this person starts with an extra warehouse. So there's different cards that will give you special abilities, and that's a nice thing. You basically start with an asymmetrical position. And there's a few other things. There's ways to get cards and manipulate contracts and such. At the end of the game, which will happen when all these cards run out, when someone gets 80 crowns, or when this token here gets to the end of the track. When that happens, when any one of those things happens, you resolve any contracts, whether people get victory points or lose victory points, sell all your crowns, 10 crowns per victory point, sell all your goods to the bank for, well, the lowest price that you can sell them for, which is usually 3 crowns, and change all that into victory points. Whoever has most victory points is the winner. There's some interesting features to this game. One of the things I like is I like the asymmetrical starting position with the special ability you have. There's a lot of options, but there is one thing you have to realize. This is a very, very tight game. In essence, I think if you make a couple mistakes over the course of the game in how much you bid for something or selling something at the wrong time, that you've kind of lost the game, because there's only a few victory points really that are going back and forth. And every victory point counts. And if you miss out, or someone plays a card on you that just nails you, like you sell whenever you sell a good token, you have to allow everyone else a chance to play a card. And if 2 people manage to play cards that bring the price of the good you're about to sell way down to the point where it's underneath the cost that you bought it for in the auction, that can really throw you off for the whole game. So between the auctions, between the fact that you can steal, this is a fairly interactive Euro game, which can be fairly vicious at times. And I use the word fairly often there, huh? But, so where do I stand on it? Well, I did not dislike the game. I think it's a fine game, but it's almost too mental for me. Not mental, but it's too cerebral No, that's not the right word either. I think the best way to describe it is I'm too nervous that I will make a small mistake which will cost me the game. And you say, well, Vasel, there's many games like that. You make a small mistake in chess and you lose the game. Well, right, which is why I'm not a huge fan of chess. But in this one, there's a lot of moving parts. And while you can set yourself up in a good position, you can really get reamed over by another player if you do an incorrect thing at the wrong time. I think you can recover from that, and I think some of the features of this game, notably how the auctions can be split up or auctioned off together, or how the victory point costs are low in the beginning and go up more in the end. And unlike most worker placement games, I don't think this one requires you to get all the workers you need. You know, usually you get as many workers as you can in these games. This one doesn't necessarily have that feature in it. This one's a little bit hard to classify. For some reason, it really brought to mind Medici, which is an older auction game, because the auctions in this game are so very critical. So it's an auction game that has very critical things with a dose of kind of random cards on the side. And they're not necessarily random, but since anyone can play them at any time, you're never sure how the prices will fluctuate. And that brings the rating of the game down for me a little bit. I think there's certainly a group of people who will like this, but I think it is a more narrow group than the other games in the Tempest series. Like Courtier was just super fun for me. Love Letter, super fun. This one, it's just almost feels like work. Fantastic components, well-designed game. I can't really fault the game as much. It's just that when it all was said and done, I didn't go, whoo, let's play it again. I said, let me think about this. So it's a thoughtful game, just maybe not a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.
Shut the door.